This podcast is sponsored by Stonefly, your trusted solution provider and advisor in enterprise storage, backup, and disaster recovery. Hyperconverged and VMware, Hyper-V, Proxmox cluster, AI servers, and public and private cloud. Check out stonefly.com or email your project requirements to sales@stonefly.com for more information. Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're doing a deep dive into something, well, pretty much everyone faces at some point, job interviews.
Yeah, a universal experience, really.
We're going to look at some common pitfalls, things that can easily trip you up, and maybe more importantly, some solid best practices to, help you actually shine in that interview room.
And what's interesting, I think, is that the interview itself might feel short, right?
Yeah.
Like this intense moment. But the stuff you do before and the steps you take after, they can totally change the game.
Absolutely.
We've looked into the typical mistakes people make, how employers actually evaluate candidates. That's quite revealing.
Yeah.
Why your questions matter so much.
Oh, yeah.
And how just a simple, thoughtful follow-up can make a real difference. So our mission today really is to give you, our listeners, actionable stuff, tools to navigate these interviews successfully and, make a strong impression.
Sounds good. Let's jump right into the first one. It's actually surprising how often this comes up. Lack of preparation, just not doing the homework on the company.
It is surprising, isn't it? Especially now with all the info available online. But yeah, it happens. And from the employer's view, it just signals, well, a lack of professionalism, maybe even interest.
Right, if you haven't bothered to look up their mission or values or what they've been up to lately.
Exactly. It kind of suggests you're maybe not that invested in this specific job,
So the actionable advice here is pretty straightforward. Dedicate some real time before the interview. Go deep on their website. Check out their LinkedIn, maybe Twitter, Facebook too. Get a real sense of their mission, their values, recent news.
What projects are they working on? Who are their competitors? Where do they sit in the industry? All that stuff.
It's not just about ticking a box, is it? This research actually helps you tailor your answers.
Precisely. And it lets you ask much smarter questions later on, which we'll definitely get to.
Okay, pitfall number 2. This one's about attitude. Focusing too much on the negatives.
Yes. Talking down previous employers or roles. It's tempting sometimes, maybe, if you had a bad experience.
We've all been there.
But the interview,
Yeah.
not the place, it can raise pretty big red flags for the interviewer. They're generally looking for a positive, solutions-oriented mindset.
Someone who learns from challenges, right? Not someone who just complains.
Exactly. So even if things were tough, you need to frame it positively. Focus on the skills you gain navigating those challenges.
The lessons learned, what good came out of it, even if it was difficult.
That's the key. Show resilience. Show you find growth even in tough spots.
Okay, moving on. Mistake number 3, and this might seem basic, but it's critical. Not rehearsing.
Yeah, just sort of winging it. Big mistake. Well, every interview is unique. A lot of the questions, they follow predictable patterns.
Like, what's probably coming, at least some of it.
Right. And that predictability. It's your opportunity to prepare strategically. Not rehearsing is, it's like giving an important presentation without practicing.
You wouldn't do that. You'd likely struggle to articulate your points clearly.
And just feel unprepared, which really undermines your confidence. But let's be clear, rehearsing isn't about memorizing a script word for word.
No, definitely not. Interviews need to be conversational.
Exactly. It's about strategizing your answers, knowing the key points you want to hit for each likely question, feeling comfortable talking about your skills and experiences.
So what should people actually rehearse? Start with a list, maybe. Those common questions.
Definitely. Compile a list of the greatest hits. Tell me about yourself, obviously. Why this company? Why should we hire you? Strengths and weaknesses.
Your biggest accomplishment, where you see your career going.
How you found out about the job, what factors made you apply, what you know about them, even salary expectations. And, crucially, preparing your questions for them.
We'll come back to that one. So once you have that list, you need to actually craft some answers.
Well-structured answers.
Yeah.
Ones that showcase your relevant skills and experiences. Use examples.
And then practice. Mock interviews are golden here.
Oh, absolutely. Grab a friend, a colleague, anyone. Have them grill you. It helps you refine responses, spot weak areas, and just get comfortable with the flow.
It's not just what you say, but how you say it, right? Pacing, confidence.
Body language, eye contact. Practicing out loud really helps smooth all that out.
Okay, speaking of asking questions, that brings us neatly to mistake number 4. Having no questions to ask the interviewer.
Oh, this is a big one. When they say, so any questions for us? and you just say, nope, I think you covered everything.
It's not a great look, is it?
Not at all. It suggests maybe a lack of engagement, or that you haven't thought critically about the role or the company.
And it misses a huge opportunity. Asking questions shows you're genuinely interested and also that you're evaluating them too.
Exactly. Employment is a two-way street. You need to assess if it's the right fit for you.
So prepare thoughtful questions beforehand. And please, not questions where the answer is easily findable on the first page of their website.
Right. Avoid the obvious stuff or things they already explained. Ask something insightful.
Like what? Any examples?
A really powerful one, though it takes a bit of confidence, is, now that you've heard about my background and answers, do you have any concerns about my ability to succeed in this role?
Wow, that's direct, but I can see how it opens up a really useful dialogue.
It does. It shows self-awareness and invites honest feedback right there.
Okay, let's shift focus. The interview's over. Now what? Let's talk about the follow-up.
Yes, the power of the follow-up, often underestimated but so important. A well-crafted follow-up email sent within, say, 24 to 48 hours. It's crucial.
It's more than just politeness, right?
Definitely. It does a few key things. One, it reiterates your strong interest in the job. Two, it helps refresh their memory about you and your qualifications.
Kind of brings you back to the top of their mind.
Exactly. And three, it demonstrates professionalism and attention to detail. Simple, but effective.
So what goes in that email? Keep it brief.
Yes, brief and professional. Thank them for their time, obviously. Briefly recap maybe one or two key strengths or points you discussed that align perfectly with the role.
Reinforce that connection.
Right. Reiterate your interest, state you're available for next steps, and that's pretty much it. Short, sweet, impactful.
Got it. Now, something candidates might not always think about is the employer side of the table. How do they try to evaluate everyone fairly? I've heard about interview scorecards.
Yes, scorecards are pretty common, especially in larger organizations or for more structured hiring processes. Understanding them gives you insight into how they're trying to be objective.
So what are they, essentially? Like a checklist?
Sort of. They're tools hiring teams use to evaluate candidates against a predefined set of criteria. Key competencies needed for the job.
So everyone gets measured against the same things.
That's the goal. It helps minimize bias, or at least aims to, and ensures a standardized framework. They're trying to predict job performance and ensure fairness.
Makes sense. What makes up a good scorecard? What are they usually looking for?
Well, a good one starts with clearly identifying those key competencies, what really matters for this role.
Okay.
Then they develop specific questions designed to assess each competency. Behavioral questions, situational ones.
Right.
There needs to be a consistent scoring system, often a numerical scale like 1 to 5, with clear definitions for what each score means.
Okay, so skills assessment, structured questions, scoring, anything else?
Yeah, often they'll include things like cultural fit, how well do your values and work style seem to align with the company?
Ah, the fit question.
And soft skills are huge too. Communication, problem solving, teamwork, leadership potential. The scorecard should have a logical structure, making it easier for interviewers to use.
So how does this actually help the hiring team beyond just ticking boxes?
It gives them clear criteria, so everyone's looking for the same things. The structured questions allow for fairer comparisons between candidates.
It's apples to apples, kind of.
Exactly. It can even help them note nonverbal cues more consistently. It aids alignment on cultural fit, facilitates collaboration among the interviewers.
Makes the debrief session easier, I bet.
For sure. It promotes consistency, objectivity, keeps the focus on relevant skills, and measures candidates against the actual job requirements.
And for the company overall, the benefits are
Enhanced fairness, more structured processes, better comparison of candidates, easier team alignment, and ultimately streamlined, hopefully better, decision-making.
sounds pretty good. Are there any downsides or potential traps with scorecards, though?
Yeah, there can be. Sometimes there's a risk of over-relying on the numbers, the quantitative stuff, and maybe missing important qualitative insights about a candidate.
Like the human element gets lost a bit.
Potentially. They can also feel a bit inflexible, especially in more conversational interviews. And bias isn't totally eliminated. It can still creep into how answers are interpreted and scored. They might have a limited scope, focusing only on predefined criteria. And creating and implementing good scorecards takes time and effort. Plus, balancing standardization with individual context is always tricky. There's a risk of oversimplification.
Okay, good to be aware of that framework they might be using. Now, going back to the interview itself, we talked about having questions ready for the end. What about asking clarifying or follow-up questions during the conversation?
Oh, absolutely. Those are powerful tools too. Don't be afraid to use them. Asking a follow-up question shows you're actively listening, like really engaged.
Not just passively receiving information.
Exactly. It helps you clarify anything that's unclear. It builds trust because it shows you want to genuinely understand. It lets you gather more specifics.
Dig a little deeper on something they said.
Right. Understand their motivations, encourage them to elaborate. It leads to a much richer, more comprehensive understanding for both sides.
So be an active participant, not just an interviewee waiting for the next question.
Precisely. Okay, so let's try to structure this whole process, thinking about it in 3 phases. Before, during, and after the interview. What's key for each?
All right. Before. Preparation is king. We've hit this hard, but it bears repeating. Research the company, the industry, the role. Prepare your materials, multiple resume copies, references ready, maybe licenses or recommendation letters if relevant.
And rehearse?
And rehearse. Practice answering common questions, prepare your questions, and even think about how you'll wrap things up.
Okay, then, during the interview, we could break this down further, maybe into 4 stages.
Sounds good. Stage 1, the introduction. Goal here is introduce yourself, clearly state the position you're there for, project enthusiasm and confidence.
Build some rapport. Find common ground if you can. Active listening starts right away.
Yeah.
Clear communication is key from the get-go.
Stage 2, employer questions. This is where you sell yourself. Address their concerns, show your qualifications with specific examples.
Think like them. What are they really trying to figure out? Usually boils down to 3 things. Can you do the job? Skills, abilities.
Right.
Will you do the job? Attitude, work ethic, motivation. And will you fit in? Teamwork, culture.
And this is where those traditional questions come in, but also behavioral questions. That STAR method you mentioned.
Yes, STAR is perfect for behavioral questions, the ones that usually start with, tell me about a time when. It stands for situation, task, action, result.
So you describe the situation.
What was the context?
Yeah.
Then the task, what needed to be done? Then the action, what did you specifically do? And finally, the result, what was the outcome?
It gives concrete evidence instead of just vague claims, like answering, how did you handle an unmet goal? Or, how did you get info from someone unresponsive?
Exactly. You might also get hypothetical or situational questions. What would you do first if hired? How would you approach this new task? What if you noticed a drop in your team's work quality?
Test your thinking process. Okay, stage 3, candidate questions. Your turn.
We covered this, but it's vital. Ask those smart questions you prepared. Show you're engaged in evaluating them too. Aim for maybe 2 or 3 good ones.
And that bold one. Any concerns about my ability?
If you feel comfortable. Then, stage 4, the closing.
How to end strong.
Thank the interviewer sincerely. Restate your interest. Maybe even subtly ask for the job, like, I'm very interested and would welcome the opportunity.
Okay.
And crucially, try to set a timeline. Ask politely about next steps and when you might expect to hear back. Manages expectations.
Right. And then, after the interview is over.
Immediate follow-up. That thank you note or email we talked about, send it the same day if possible.
Keep it brief, thank them, maybe add anything important you forgot.
Reinforce a key point. Reiterate your interest. Show appreciation. Just leaves a good final impression.
And even if you don't get the job, sometimes a polite follow-up expressing continued interest in the company can be worthwhile.
Absolutely. You never know. It might keep you in mind for future openings. Leaves the door open.
Good point. We should also probably just quickly mention the different types of interviews people might encounter. It's not always just face-to-face anymore.
True. You've got phone screens, obviously. Live video interviews, Zoom, Teams, etc. Very common now.
Still face-to-face sometimes, maybe one-on-one or with a panel.
Right. Panel interviews can be intimidating. Then there are meal interviews, often for client-facing roles. And sometimes group interviews, maybe for hiring multiple people for similar roles.
Any quick tips specific to these formats?
Well, for phone interviews, even though they can't see you, still try to dress professionally. It puts you in the right mindset. Smile, they can often hear it in your voice.
Interesting. Video calls.
Tech check. Test your internet, mic, camera beforehand. Have a clean, professional background. Good lighting. Minimize distractions.
Makes sense. Face-to-face.
Remember, your interview starts the moment you arrive on the property. Be polite to everyone, the receptionist, anyone you pass in the hall.
Good reminder. Okay, any final key things to remember for interview success overall?
Yeah, a few quick hits. Arrive early, but not too early. 10-15 minutes is usually perfect.
Gives you time to settle.
Turn your phone off. Not just silent. Off. Be polite to absolutely everyone. And dress appropriately.
What's the rule of thumb for dressing?
Generally, Aim for one level above the typical daily wear for the position. If the office is business casual, maybe wear a suit or sharp business separates. If it's casual, go for business casual.
Err on the side of more formal?
Usually safe, yes. Ensure clothes fit well, are clean, comfortable. For executive roles or conservative industries, a traditional suit is often still the standard.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this up. If we boil down this whole deep dive,
Right.
what are the absolute must-dos for our listeners?
It really comes down to, I think, four main things. One, thorough preparation. Research, rehearse, know your stuff.
2, thoughtful responses during the interview. Clear, concise, use examples, think star.
3, ask insightful questions yourself. Show you're engaged and thinking critically.
And 4, diligent follow-up. That prompt, professional thank you note.
Get those four right, and you're in a much, much stronger position.
And always remember that point about it being a two-way street.
Absolutely crucial. You are interviewing them just as much as they are interviewing you. Is this the right place, the right role, the right team for you? Don't forget to assess that.
Definitely. So here's a final thought for everyone listening. Consider how proactively addressing these common mistakes we've talked about today,
Yeah.
how that can shift your whole perspective. It can change the interview from feeling like this nerve-wracking test
Yeah, like you're just being judged.
into a really powerful opportunity for, well, mutual discovery, finding out if you and the potential employer are truly a good match.